Welcome to Everyday Conversations with the Brook. I'm Molly. This is my friend Trevor and Haley. And we're so lucky. We get to have so many conversations with so many of you in the Brook on a weekly and monthly basis. And we just want to take this opportunity to kind of like expand the conversation a little bit.
Yeah.
And so what we want to talk about today is the topic of anxiety. And I recently read that a new study came out that said over 35% of people in America have struggled with anxiety this last year. But over 50% of those people were between the ages of 18 and 35 years old. So it's a real thing. It's a real conversation we're all having. But Haley, like, why would you say, like, why do you think this topic of anxiety, the questions around it, is so just like prevalent right now?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think anxiety is just so rampant in our culture and especially in our demographic from 20 to 40 because there's so many things pulling at our attention that's distracting us, that's keeping us from ushering in rest. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's, aside from just fun distractions, there's so much to be stressed about, and even politically looking at the scope of the world, relationally, the economy. Like, there's so many things that can just take over our minds. And if you aren't careful to take your thoughts captive, they can run amok and just wreak havoc on your life. Mm-hmm. And I think that even in this young professional age range, it's that you're out of college, but you're also not yet necessarily settled. There's a lot of transient feelings and lifestyle patterns. And with that comes a little more instability, even for your physical life. But then even as that plays into your mental life and your mental rhythms, there's so many more opportunities for instability rather than having a routine and being able to process all the outside influences and things that are challenging for our attention.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts. Like, young professionals, I feel like they're always, we have a roommates channel on our app because they're always moving, like physically. Like you said, there's so many places of instability that are happening. I think that's a real thing. So, like, Trevor, I know you get to talk to so many guys. Like, how have you seen, like, real examples of kind of this conversation come up for you recently with, like, men that you've been talking to?
Yeah, and I think I can build what you're talking off of what Haley's talking about, because in the middle of figuring it out, it's, do I have a way to figure it out?
Wow.
Most of these guys, most of them they've not been taught how to think through anxiety or think through, how should I make this decision or that decision, or should I take this opportunity, or should I grow in this area? And I think if you view everything equally, that's where anxiety begins. Because think about it like this: if everything is valued the same, then what decision do you make next?
Wow. Yeah.
You don't know if you should go skiing with this person, or if you should go and get this job. If you view everything the same, the anxiety comes in with, I don't know what to do next. There's so many decisions. There's so many options. What is my value system? So I think if we could begin to think about having a filter through which we make decisions based off of what we value most, we will actually make the decisions we need to make today, and then we will worry less about the decisions we can put off till tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think that's really good, and I think building off of that even is being able to name what is anxiety. I think that there's a lack of awareness for what is anxiety and what is stress.
Right.
That's good.
I myself wouldn't consider myself a particularly anxious person, but in talking with my therapist and even just unpacking different relationships, the way that anxiety can manifest for me feels like urgency.
Yeah.
Or like having the urgency to resolve a conflict the way I want it resolved, rather than, is this actually like the best way to do it that honors the relationship? And so being able to name, like, what is anxiety and what is something that is just causing you stress or uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I think that not only placing value and prioritizing will help, delay some of the anxiety, but even being able to put a name to, oh, this is an anxious thought.
Yeah.
And I can take that captive and, oh, how do I even focus on my breathing, focus on my rhythms, that once you can name it anxiety, it almost takes away a little bit of power.
Yeah.
Rather than naming everything anxiety and treating it as this big, looming elephant in the room that is impossible to overcome.
Totally.
And when it comes to stress, I think what you just said right there is powerful. Meaning, if you can know where it's coming from, it'll change the game. But also, there's a healthy amount of stress that gets us out of bed, that gets us motivated personally. Yeah. And there's a personal motivational stress that gets us to move. Yeah. But then there's distress, and distress is crippling. Distress is not something I can trust. Distress is overwhelming, and that's where true anxiety is not. I think that's where true anxiety lives. Yeah. And so let's not call maybe things that move us or that motivate us like a crippling anxiety, because they're not. Yeah. Because we need to be challenged and motivated to make a move or to grow or to be a little uncomfortable. Yep. And so there's a range of anxiousness, and not all feelings of stress are anxiety, but just like not all anxiety, but all anxiety does have stress. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, where on the range of feelings and emotions do I fit this thought or feeling or emotion? And I love what you said, know where it's coming from. Yeah. And I think that comes back to powerful, meaningful relationships in light of community, that we can bounce off ideas of hey, I'm feeling this, or I'm going through this, or I need to talk about this. Yeah. So anyways.
Yeah, I love the idea of there's a healthy amount of stress that propels you forward, right? What are any other conversations you guys have had, or ways that you've seen personally, maybe kind of get past anxiety? I mean, I would even say, first of all, it just came to my mind, I feel like there's a lot of girls I've talked to recently that have a lot of social anxiety, right? Yeah. We're more isolated more than ever, so we're by ourselves a lot. So the idea of going into social settings can be super scary. And so I know I've talked to girls about what does social anxiety look like, and how do I overcome that? And it's actually really fun. I've seen some girls in the Brook really grow. There was a friend of mine that when she first started going to the Brook, she's I was nervous to come. I had to bring a friend, but just through building some really secure, solid relationships, she's been able to engage and become a leader within the Brook and engage in amazing social settings. But I think that's a topic I've heard a lot about too, is just social anxiety.
I think in my life, the times that I have felt the most anxious are right before I'm doing something that is the best for me. I used to go to summer camp, and it was for a month long, and every year, like clockwork, right before it happened, I would be, I don't want to go, I can't leave, all these feelings of anxiety that were so false, that could not have been further from the truth, would just overcome me. And my parents every time would be like, this happens every time, this is good, this is great. And I'd get there and have the time of my life, and there'd be so much breakthrough in my life, and just great experiences. And I think that even in social situations too, there can be that, oh, I don't know my exit point, I can't clock out or anticipate what it's going to look like. Yeah. And so I feel this anxiety building up. But I've learned when I feel that is, okay, why am I feeling this? What's coming up? Why would I be self-sabotaging, or what would be wanting me to not enter into what I'm about to go to? Yeah. And pushing through for that on the other side of it is every time I'm wow, I would have missed this. Yeah. So I think having the boldness to be okay, there's such thing as healthy fear for sure, where you want to be aware of your surroundings. There's reasons that we are made with survival instincts and whatnot. It's not ignoring that. But it's also going back to that thought of taking every thought captive and looking ahead at okay, what is the outcome of this, or what could happen if I push through this anxiety? And that has been so helpful for me to see that, oh, if I'm feeling anxious, it's probably because there's something really good on the other side of this.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, me too. And you making those decisions has a lot to do with you desiring to grow or your parents wanting you to grow.
Yeah.
And if we're making decisions based off of, hey, this is going to help me grow, that's going to change the game for us.
Yeah.
And then also the way that I have seen it is if you are anxious, a lot of times you're lacking confidence. And that's not the only reason that you have anxiety, but what I have found is people are trying to be what they feel like they have to be based off of the people they're trying to have relationships with, or the people that they're trying to work with or for. It's like they're trying to think, oh, who do I need to be for them to like me? And that's the worst thing that we can do.
Yeah.
Because if we cannot be ourselves, then we will have anxiety overwhelm us because we feel like we've got to be somebody else, that we're not good enough.
Yeah.
And I think a way to combat anxiety in a lot of the conversations I'm having with young men is they're uncomfortable to be themselves. They've never been encouraged to be themselves, and they don't even like themselves.
Wow.
But what if they began to enjoy who they are and know what they're about and know where they want to go, know who they want to become, and have a little bit of confidence coming in their life?
Yeah.
Because what I've heard and I've loved is you are your own niche. Not the worst version of yourself, the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
Let's pursue getting better, like we're talking about, and growing and being the best version of ourselves. But that's going to give us confidence to begin to make decisions based off of who we are and who we want to be. It's going to change the game for us. So the conversations are centered around people, young men specifically, not knowing who they are and not having any confidence, which is causing anxiety because they feel like they've got to value what everyone else values instead of what they desire to value.
Yeah.
And so I'm just seeing that being a really important thing.
So it's the fear, if the root of anxiety a lot of times is fear, it's the fear of what people think of you.
Yeah.
And if you're not confident about who you are, you're just fearing what other people are how they're gonna perceive you. But if you can grow in that confidence of who you are, own your niche, right?
Yeah,
You can show up as the best version of yourself. You can be confident in that. And I think that's really attractive, right? Like that's really attractive to people around us for sure.
For friends, for people that are trying to hire you, for romantic relationships, for community, it's just so attractive because you will attract the best version of yourself. If you're pursuing that or pursuing growing. So I just love that.
I love that too. I've been reading through Proverbs, which is just a book of complete wisdom, like literally these little nuggets of wisdom. And in it says, anxiety weighs down the heart. And when I've experienced anxiety, like that's the physical feeling I feel. I feel weighed down. My heart, my chest feel physically heavy. Yeah. But it goes on to say, a kind word cheers you up.
Yeah.
And so I think something that I would just share with everyone is, what if you were to speak kind words to yourself? What if, when you're feeling anxious, instead of getting in those thoughts that just keep circling, you just say something kind, like, I'm who God made me to be, or I am capable, or I can do this. Or what if you also went one step further, since so many people struggle with anxiety? What if you were the person today to say a kind word to somebody else? So often we think thoughts of people that we do not share. What if you're at a business meeting and your coworker crushes something they were supposed to do, and you tell them, man, you crushed that, you're awesome at that. Think how that could change that person's anxiety. How could you use kind words personally to yourself? How can you share a kind word with somebody else today to take that heaviness of heart off of them, to relieve some of that anxiety, and to say we're all in this together and we can move forward, right?
Yeah.
So, well, thank you guys for your input. This is one of many conversations we're going to continue to have, so we'll see you soon.